I know what he's saying. What he's saying is when it's dog, when the game is just so visually polluted that you cannot even see any amount of micro level combat going on your screen whatsoever because the whole screen is just covered in dog. Very good interview. That was a good. That guy, honestly, like what the. This guy had like access to both of the lead devs at the same time and just got to ask whatever questions they wanted. That shit is straight up better than XLCon. Like why can we do that at XLCon? We're raw dogging right now.
Before we get started, I'm Lovepe and I'm very grateful to got the opportunity to be here and do this interview with you. And yeah, sorry for my bad English. My community hates me for my pronunciation. So
I got the same microphone as him, dude.
And it's my first interview as well. So I hope you can understand me.
Sure.
I have a few questions, but let's start with some soft questions. How you enjoyed your first days in Germany?
Well, Gamescom has been crazy so far. There are so many people, and it's been a back-to-back schedule of media interviews for us, and I'm looking forward to getting out on the show floor tomorrow to check out how the main Path of Exile booth is going. And Germany's lovely, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very nice. Obviously the jet lag is a little bit annoying all the way from New Zealand. We're opposite time zone. But other than that, it's been very nice here.
You already saw the Kölner Dom, Cologne Cathedral?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Very
Okay,
nice.
Okay, so let's start with a few questions because I think your time is very limited. So I like to start with some Path of Exile 1 questions. Can you briefly explain what future is for Path of Exile 1 when we are looking to the PoE2 release, so the next month, and after the PoE2 release?
So our intention with Path of Exile 1 is to carry on basically what we've been doing so far, which is quarterly expansions that introduce new challenge leagues, endgame changes, metagame changes, and we're very cognizant of the fact that because Path of Exile 1 is a separate product from Path of Exile 2, we don't need to allow Path of Exile 2's ongoing development to affect Path of Exile 1 necessarily. We can make sure that Path of Exile 1 keeps evolving in its own direction, and we have staggered our launches of leagues, so the Path of Exile 1 will occur sometime after each of the Path of Exile 2 launches, meaning if players want to, they can play the PoE2
Bro, they update some shit with the PoE2 code that updates to PoE1 because the PoE1 and PoE2 are on the same shit, right? So then we are going to be affected in some ways. That's going to happen. That is going to happen, isn't it? Like, that's the reality of the situation.
And then come and play a Path of Exile 1 expansion maybe 8 or 9 weeks later.
No, they have to have the same code because of all the MDX shit. They are. They're already implementing all of it. They're already switching over, like, all these technical improvements and all the fucking visual bullshit. A lot of this is PoE2 stuff getting implemented into PoE1. The whole point is that it's going to be on the same code base, and when they update new MTX, it goes to old MTX and all this shit. That's how it is. It is what it is. So there is going to be, now, in terms of gameplay, I think most of the time it would be totally not gameplay, and it'd be more like issues that get implemented into PoE2 will also get implemented to PoE1 because they're not going to be completely separate, because they're not.
Later in the 13-week cycle.
Yeah. Okay, so PoE1 and 2 will be separate games, and PoE1 has ruthless mode, so can we expect some kind of more power creep, more broken mechanics in PoE1 again, or is it like we had it in the last few leaks, so that there are not so many very broken combinations?
Yo, hot takes, dude. Tattoos are actually fucking broken, and the OP as fuck. People haven't even realized how busted they are. People just need to sit down and realize, like, oh wait, if I stack every single fucking accuracy tattoo, this is broken. If I stack every single +1 attack range tattoo, this is broken. If I stack every single armor tattoo, this is broken. If I stack every single cooldown reduction tattoo, this is broken. Now on Trade League, you can do that, and it's like, it's insane. There's a max limit. Most of them, there's not a max limit. There's like 50 or something. It's in some insane amount, right? You can just stack one, pick one. Obviously not all of them. Some of them aren't going to be that broken when you stack them, but a lot of them are totally abusable and let you make disgusting, retarded, stupid shit that, probably shouldn't be in the fucking game.
Well, I think some degree of power creep is inevitable. It's very difficult for us to not introduce content to the game that helps increase the power cap of players. And while we're trying to be mindful of it, we know Path of
Tattoos,
Exile
bro.
has been out for more than 10 years already. It's got more than 10 years of life left in it. We want to be careful to not have too much incremental power creep year after year, but certainly it's inevitable that players will continue to gain more power over time and find more crazy ways to play.
Yeah. We have now received a few new support gems in 3.22. Can we expect more major numerical changes to skill gems in Path of Exile 1 in the next upcoming leaks?
So in terms of numerical changes, I mean, broadly speaking, we do of course want to buff underused things, but for many of the ones we have at the moment, it's not really a matter of just changing the numbers.
He's gonna do the same take he always does, chat. That's Sag. He says like, no, we don't want to do more. It's like, no, we don't want to. We could just buff some old shitty skill with numbers to make it more competitive, but we want to redesign that ability to be more modern and have extra shit. And he says this every time, chat. It's Giga Sag. We don't care. We don't care, Chris. Let us play the old shitty skills that are just buffed to be at least viable. Okay, come on. This is the same. We've heard this answer a million times.
For those ones, we've done experimentation, and where we can change the numbers in a quick way, we've done so. Many of the ones at the moment that need buffs need a bit more of a mechanical rework or a bit of taking back to the drawing board and making better.
Sag.
And that's something we've been doing in various ways. For example, we've been, overhauling ascendancy classes and so on occasionally doing gem reworks. But we found that in some cases it's easier to introduce new options than to change too much about how an existing thing works, because even though the thing may feel underused, it's still being used by some number of builds.
Buff Infernal Blow, bro. Come on. Where's that Infernal Blow bus? For real. All these Archmage changes and everything, like, where the fuck is it? Yeah, they implemented Trauma, and Infernal Blow is strong, whatever, but like, you know what Infernal Blow needs, chat? Do you know what Infernal Blow needs? It needs a higher number on the explosion damage from the monster. The uncharged debuff or whatever it is. The 8% value needs to be higher. It needs buff. It needs a buff. It needs a buff. No, and I could name like 100 skills. Well, not 100. I could name like at least 20 skills that all like Vengeance. Come on, Vengeance. You like they buffed every other melee skill in the game, and then you just left out Vengeance. Now Vengeance is one of my favorite abilities in the game. Literally, if I could make a fucking Vengeance build, I fucking would. But they fucking killed the shit out of it.
And we have to be careful to not accidentally ruin them as we improve it for the other players.
So, if you want to change one gem, you want to rework it, right?
To be a lot better, yeah.
Okay, I understand. What's about melee?
Well, melee is obviously something we want to feel really good. Now, the tricky thing, of course, is to fundamentally make melee feel really awesome. You need to do the type of extensive work that Jonathon's team have been doing for Path of Exile 2 for 5 years now. And so we're in a bit of a difficult situation in Path of Exile 1 because we do not have all the new character rigs and all of the significant amount of animation work that's gone into Path of Exile 2. We still want melee to feel good, but this is going to require more of a Path of Exile 1 twist on making melee feel good.
Okay. You started to rework the acts in...
Yo, what, are you going to interview Jonathon? You going to interview Jonathon at all? What's going on here? Poor Jonathon. Look at Jonathon, dude. He's over there feeling sad. Not getting asked any questions over there. Look at him.
in Path of Exile 1 and suddenly stopped it. Is there a story behind it, or was it never planned to rework all acts in Path of Exile 1?
Maybe he's going to do PoE2 questions.
Visual improvements where we can do, if there's something that's particularly old. Some of the earliest acts in Path of Exile have been there, like we started the work on that in 2007.
Yeah.
There's some very old assets, so we want to improve those as we can. And we also did a pass of making the campaign more challenging and difficult. Like we got through Act 1 and about half of Act 2.
Classic.
And that's something we were enjoying. I don't know if that's what the players want in terms of an act rework, is making it challenging and really scary. But we were enjoying that and the effect that it had on people's campaign playthroughs. There's a lot more we can do to finish that balance pass. It's just that it takes a very large amount of effort. And during that time, we could, of course, introduce new skills or new metagame stuff that we think might be better received.
Yeah. Okay, so one question I have asked myself a lot of times: how are league mechanics created? How can you describe the process? So is it like you are sitting on a big round table and everyone throws in his ideas like a big brainstorming, or how does it work and how you get your thoughts from?
Honestly, there are so many different ways we come up with leagues. For a while, one of our favorite ways was to scroll through Netflix and try to find movie ideas that could become cool leagues. Like, it just inspires you. You know, you see a heist movie and think we could do that, for example.
Okay.
And
I think it's the case with just about any kind of ideation. Like it's very hard to just sit down with with nothing and come up with ideas.
Yeah.
Like when I'm trying to come up with ideas for anything, I often just go to Path of Exile areas and walk around a little bit. And as I'm just looking at things, somehow it just inspires thoughts about other things. But yes, as Chris said, like, you know, you scroll down a bunch of movie posters, and like as you're looking at them, you're just coming up with things. And I think just it's a good way of brainstorming, just like looking at stuff in front of you and just letting ideas come from that.
Okay.
Just pick an entire genre. Just do like a scuff PoE version, which I like that. I like that. That's my favorite ones. Like when they pick a genre and then just do it, those ones are fun.
How far away or how far ahead are leagues planned, set?
We usually don't plan further ahead than the one that we're currently working on. So, for example, at the moment we're working on 323 that's coming out, you know, towards the end of the year. We have no idea what 324 is. Like, I could tell you zero facts about 324.
Baked, dude. That's Giga Chad. That means that shit is current though as well, which means you're in touch, right? Think about it. If you're not planning, because with that shit that D4 is doing, where they like plan, like, yeah, there's advantages to like pre-planning, but then you don't have the what's what I'm looking for here, the agency to quickly maneuver and do something that's topical, or do something that the players want, or do something they have a really good idea for, because they've kind of locked in. Yeah, you gain flexibility, and you can be more reactive.
24, but 323 I could tell you quite a lot about.
It's actually very important to do that, because if you plan things too early, then you can't respond to what the players' needs are. You're just kind of making something for like people who are already 6 months out of date. So it's kind of important to be able to respond quickly.
Okay, amazing. Is there a simple reason why popular leagues like Sentinel and Ultimatum have not made it into core game yet?
Generally speaking, it's because we don't yet feel that the core game is ready for them. Now, with Ultimatum, maybe the game is a bit more ready. With Sentinel, we don't necessarily know that it fits in the core theme of Path of Exile. Like, you know, having floating laser robots following you isn't necessarily something we want in the dark fantasy.
Sentinel was fucking trash, dog. It was fucking trash. Everyone loved it because they're fucking brain dead and retarded. That is like the button they can press and they get held currency. Okay? Now, Combinators. Amazing. Good, like, dude, that's hard carried Sentinel. Combinators, oh my god. Put Combinators into the game. Make them SSF only if you have to. Fuck yes, dude. Combinators totally changed the way you looked at loot and the entire game, actually. Awesome. But fucking Sentinel League, the actual mechanic, holy fuck. Trash.
You know, baseline game, but there are certainly elements of Sentinel we can wrap in, and for Ultimatum I suspect you'll hear more news soon.
Okay.
What the hell? They've been talking about Ultimatum for so long. Wait, they've been talking about Ultimatum for so long. They said Ultimatum soon, fucking 5 leagues in a row or whatever. And now he's just said Ultimatum soon, like fucking 3 hours ago, apparently. What the hell?
Interesting. Last PoE1 question. In case Path of Exile 1 doesn't have many players in a few years because PoE2 is just bigger and I don't know. Have you given any thoughts to preserving the PoE1 experience like in a SSF offline mode or something like this?
I understand what you're asking for here. If Path of Exile 2 is massively successful and every player moves over there, then would we still continue to run PoE 1? But we would. It's very inexpensive to run an empty game server. Having said that, we do not expect it to be empty. We're going to produce some very high-quality PoE 1 content.
For how long, Chris? For how long? To be fair, I mean, fucking 5 years is fine. What do you need? Like, 5, even if it's dead game for 5 years, it's probably fine, right? I mean, it'd be like 5, yeah, for 5 years. 5 years.
We're honestly expecting that users will jump between the two games quite a lot. So
there's really no reason to ever need to shut down Path of Exile 1 servers if that's what you're worried about.
Yeah.
Like that, I can't imagine a scenario where that would be something we'd choose to do, because as Chris just said, the infrastructure for it is entirely scalable with the number of players. So like if there's not many players, then it costs us nothing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like we're not worried about like having the service just running, and it uses the same backend as Path of Exile 2 does. So this Ultimatum ultimately the same service. So it really, there's not really any fixed costs we need to be worried about. Like, so long as Path of Exile 2 is running, there's no reason not to have Path of Exile 1 also running on the same backend infrastructure at the same time. So yeah.
I mean, for me, it's perfect. I can play Path of Exile 1, after a few months, Path of Exile 2, and go on all the year, all the time. So.
Something about that was just so despair to me, bro. Something about that was just, I don't know how to describe that. There was like pain and death in his eyes. That's his entire life until he dies. Just a dungeon, a Path of Exile dungeon. That's it. This infinite, forever, dude. Never ending. That's fucked up. I don't know, man. Sorry about that.
Oh, win. Yeah, okay. So let's move on to Path of Exile 2 questions. A closed beta is planned for June next year.
285
how
days.
closed it will be, so who can participate?
You should probably look at what we've done with past betas. Like if you look at 3.0 and how that was, there's probably quite a similar plan. But specifics I don't really want to go into too much, but you'll certainly be able to get a chance to play if that's what you're wanting to do.
It's going to be this, dude. It's going to be this. Okay, content creators, everyone gets in. Boom. Right, all streamers are in. Just like that. Okay, all streamers are in. Then it's going to be like, okay, people who have played a fuck ton also get in. You're in. Okay, now, plebs. No. There'll be waves. There'll be waves of keys going out. And they're going to do Twitch drops. Okay, I'm calling it now. Twitch drops, PoE2 beta, 100%. 100%. But there'll also be other things. There'll be like forum. They'll be giving away keys on forums. They'll be like randomly handing them out. They'll also be doing extra waves of people. They'll keep inviting people as they need them, etc., etc., etc. And then maybe they're also gonna. They would also do a thing where they say, "Oh yeah, if you buy the supporter pack that costs like $200, you get beta access." They'll be like, if you buy a supporter pack that's $200, you get the beta access, guaranteed, right? No, they won't do KFC. They won't do KFC. That's what they're gonna do. 100p. Like, mark my words. Mark my words.
There'll be ways, you know. So.
Okay, nice. And
I don't know anything, by the way. I'm purely speculating. I'm purely speculating.
the scope of the beta,
clear.
you can tell us anything about this?
So it's going to be the whole game. So there won't be. It's not just going to be one act or something like that. There's really no point to me of having a beta that isn't the whole game, because half the point of it is to test things like the economy and so on, and you can't know how that will fall out unless you've got the whole end game and everything in there. We need to have the whole end game and everything. What won't be in the beta necessarily, or rather will probably come during the beta, is we're going to be integrating Path of Exile 1 League mechanics.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh shit! I'm sorry. I get distracted. My bad. Let me get back. Sorry, it's got shut back, Chris.
Path of Exile 1 League mechanics and things like that back in over time. We don't necessarily need every one of those to be in the beta when we start to be able to get good feedback from that. But we certainly need at least the campaign and the in-game and everything all through there to be able to see how things go. And of course the beta is our last chance to actually, make sure that all that stuff is good before, we no longer, we can't exactly take items away once the beta has ended. So therefore we have to make sure that we get doing all our economic testing correct during the beta period.
So we will have the chance in the beta to test the endgame.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, nice. Can you give us a little teaser for the endgame?
So we're not going to announce anything about it, but what I will say is that it's still ultimately going to be maps, but the whole in-game situation, I guess, everything around that, we'll still have to announce. But ultimately it's still going to be the maps that you know and love, with crafting of them and all that sort of stuff like that that's going on. We definitely, that to us is fundamental DNA of Path of Exile and something that we want to make sure we do.
Nice. So Path of Exile 2 will be...
Maps are good. Maps are great. No, chat. Don't say maps. It's not despair. Maps aren't despair. Maps are, literally, maps are amazing. Maps are actually crazy. Maps are, I feel like the map system is genuinely great. It's really cool. The way they're static, right, by default is white, but then you can add mods to them, and then the mods make them more difficult, but then they're more rewarding. And you can kind of customize them, so if you build shit, you can make really unrewarding maps, but that you can get through. Versus if you build insane, you make really hard maps that give you lots of rewards. Yeah, I like. It's a really cool system. I don't know. And then you got the unique maps, which give you the static bosses, and the unique maps, which are just test your character's power. It's a great system. And the way it's tied into the lore as well, like it actually makes sense. I mean, that's even more badass, dude. That's cool. It's cool. You want to play white mats? I literally don't. I'm spamming like yellow mats, fully juiced, boy. What are you even on about?
At least on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, I guess. Do you talk or think about crossplay?
It's absolutely something that we're very keen to do. We still have to work out all the stuff around it, but yeah, like crossplay, I think would be very, very beneficial. So yeah, like I'm very keen myself.
Okay, nice. I think this is one point that is very important, especially for console players to have one economy with the PC players.
Right, for sure.
I think you managed to simplify the new skill system greatly in PoE 2 compared to PoE 1, but at the same time you don't reduce the complexity of it, so it's still complex.
Right.
And is it something you are trying to do with every mechanic, like crafting in Path of Exile 2?
So, I mean, basically, my opinion on complexity is that it's very important that things are easy to use and they don't put like roadblocks in your way. But it isn't necessary to remove depth. Like a new player gets turned off by when things are annoying, they don't understand what's going on. But I don't think there's anything inherently complicated about just having a lot of options.
Yeah.
So I still like to provide a lot of options, which means there's a lot of interesting combinations you can do. But I don't see that to be the same thing as complexity. Complexity is whether the system is hard to use or not. And it's very interesting when you look at something like the skill tree, right? Like people open the skill tree and it's like this huge thing, and they look at that and think, oh, it's so complicated. But actually, there's nothing more simple to use than the Path of Exile skill tree, right? Like everyone immediately understands how to use it. It's just a question of what skills do I allocate, right? And I don't, as I said, I don't see that as complexity. So then, when it comes to crafting, like you asked, once again, like I think.
I mean, I'm sorry. That's complex. I mean, he didn't see it as complexity, but I feel like that is complexity. Like when there's a tree like that, you could. I feel like when there's a tree like that with that many nodes and that many directions, there's so many variations. If when you look at the combinatorics of it, that I feel like that is. It's like, could you design the skill tree in like a less? I don't know. It's the best thing about the game, though, so I wouldn't want them to fuck it up. There's certainly a way of condensing it, though, but I wouldn't want them to necessarily. I just wish there was a better onboarding process for new players. Whether it be people can have like default skill trees, like, hey, look, this is like a basic as fuck, basic bitch, not customized, just get you the maps. Look, this is a scaffolding for a slam skill tree, whatever, dude. Like, hey, if you put slams in with this skill tree, you're going to do okay. Something like that. I don't know. Because it sucks to see so many people get turned off of such a great and amazing game because they just get stun locked by indecision because they see this thing in front of them and they think it's this behemoth, this massive tree that's impossible to master and you need a PhD to do it. You don't. It really isn't that complicated. Dude, you're playing a fucking spell, you get shit that scales with spells, you're doing it, you pick your element, you go the thing. It works. Right? It's really not that complicated, but you have to kind of, get past that, like, first initial, like, you have to break through this fucking, this barrier, right? To understand that, actually, wait, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Which I feel like they need a bit of onboarding process for these newer players so they can understand, wait a minute, it looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is.
I think that Path of Exile, due to the fact that we've added so many crafting systems over time and things have kind of accreted like this, it means that crafting in PoE 1 is sort of complicated because everything's like a little bit, the way everything works is not really consistent, there's a few issues there. So I think it's possible to make it not complicated while not removing any depth.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm hoping to achieve with PoE 2, is we still have lots of options, there's still lots of things to think about, but it's still easy to use, like easier to use than it is in PoE 1. And that's kind of, I guess, the overall view.
Easier, but not less depth.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, the gameplay shown at ExileCon looked too slow for many players. I guess you know the feedback. Can you take away some of the players' fears that they don't want be able to shred hordes of monsters in Path of Exile 2 in short time? Or will Path of Exile 2 be just that, so it's much slower?
I mean, as I said, I guess on this issue, I guess I just don't see things the same way. Like, my goal is not to make it so that the game is slower. The goal is to make it so there's actually interesting interaction between skills. As long as we're achieving that, then it's okay. So in the Druid demo, we sort of took care to do some sort of higher level gameplay. There's a lot more going on. If you have a look at like rampaging around, things like this, the stuff you can do, you can certainly be very fast. But at the same time, what I don't want it to turn into is the whole like 200 projectiles a second like kind of thing that you get, where there's just like the screen is entirely covered, you can't see what the hell is going on, like this kind of stuff.
He's talking about mathal builds. That's what he's talking about.
So it doesn't need to be slow in order to not have this kind of thing going on. And honestly, this kind of stuff makes the game very unapproachable. Like when you see on a stream like this kind of thing, it's like, what the hell even is going on in this game? Like I don't know, like I want to make sure that.
Bro, the head. Do you remember the old Headhunter guys? Oh my god, like the old fucking. You just see like a pair of feet, like a guy teleporting around a fucking map. Everything's just instantly dying before it even spawns, and it all turns into this ridiculous MTX of like Herald of Ash or Ice, and it's like you can't even comprehend what the fuck you're even looking at, and it's just going ting ting, ting. I mean, they were literally turning it into straight up one-to-one cookie clicker. It was straight up cookie clicker at that point. That was not fun. You think it's fun, but it's not, chat. Okay? It's fun for like a couple of days, and then you want to fucking just like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Right?
There's actually some visual clarity and some interesting fun mechanics and things like that. As I said, I don't think the game needs to be slower. Is not the word I would use for that. Just more like I guess there's stuff. There's things you can respond to. The boss doesn't melt in 1 second, but instead, but you can still do some interesting combos.
I know what he's saying. What he's saying is when it's dog shit. When the game is just so visually polluted that you cannot even see any amount of micro level combat going on your screen whatsoever, because the whole screen is just covered in dog shit. Okay? And at that point, it's impossible to see like, oh, is this guy doing a telegraphed attack that I need to avoid? No, you can't see that because it's just completely covered in trash. Right?
As I said, the stuff you just saw with the Druid, I'm hoping you can see, some of the stuff that we can do there.
Yeah.
The Druid looks
For all watching this interview, we got this Druid demo, and it looked much faster for me personally. So, so last question for this interview, because I think we are a little bit short in time. Trading is a big part of Path of Exile 1 and probably Path of Exile 2. As well. Are you planning on somehow integrating trading more into the game, like with a overlay or something like this, or?
Not necessarily. Honestly, I feel like a website is actually an easier way to search for items. Like anything we'd put in the game client is likely to be less actually user-friendly. But there might be a few other changes we can make to sort of improve things just with regard to the flow of that stuff. But if we do that, I suspect that those changes would be in PoE 1 as well. They're kind of platform things rather than game things as far as I see them. But ultimately, it's still going to be like, similar things where you have, public stash tabs and things like that. You can search them online and then be able to do some trade stuff after that. That's still our trade.
I see. The whole fucking people want auction house thing debate is like, I don't really care about that, right? Whatever, dude. The trade site's fine. But it's more like, why the fuck can't we search? Like, why can't we just do the trade site in the game? Why we got to go alt tab? Why we gotta, okay? On top of that, why the fuck is there not like? Why do I got to go to another website to see like the modified list of this item that I'm trying to craft? Why can't I like go press hold alt control at the same time to see like an advanced view to see all the possible mods of the prefixes or something? Right? Like why do I have to go to like this is like that times everything. I should be able to do that for everything. Like that'd be so good if I could do that. Like all the stuff that you should be able to see in the game. Not everything. Okay, obviously like you want to find out like fucking autistic information, like, okay, this map, fucking, you want to find out, like, when the latest patch was of this map and when it got updated and what the change history was. Okay, yeah, that can go on a fucking wiki. But all the stuff that you need to know in a game, that should be in the game, I feel like you should be able to access that without having to go to third-party websites. Straight up.
Philosophy, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. Straight up.
So, okay, I add one last question, if it's okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about gold in Path of Exile? So, Do we need it in endgame?
Well, I'm hoping not. The intention behind the balance of gold is that it's something more for early game, fixing problems, using vendors and so on early, and then as you get towards the end of the game, you're going to be wanting to use other currency items and trading for other currency items. So I don't imagine, and I don't particularly want players to be trading gold between each other. It's more that they'll be using chaos. They'll still be using chaos and things like this for that kind of trade, and the gold will be more for just vendors and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you for the questions or for the answers of my questions. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you a very, very good stay and a better flight home later this week. Okay.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Good interview. Good interview, guys. Good interview. Very good interview. That was a good. That guy. Honestly, like, what the fuck? This guy had like access to both of the lead devs at the same time and just got to ask whatever questions they wanted. That shit is straight up better than the XLCon. The fuck? Like, why the fuck? Why can we do that at XLCon? The fuck, man? What the fuck? Why can we do that? Why the fuck didn't they let us do that at XLCon? Like, what the hell, man?
Because he is God.